What is up, everybody? Welcome to Future Fridays. We've got an awesome episode for you today. We have got football up front, it up in everybody's face. It is here. Preseason's going on. Hard Knocks just kicked off, so football is on our doorsteps. It is time to get excited. We are 30 days away from the NFL starting up. College football, less than
Less
that,
than
right?
that.
Yeah, like
Yep.
3 weeks.
Yeah, there's a couple of big opening games coming up very soon. I know
Yeah,
Tennessee start games the 31st, I think.
they've done well with like week 0 has turned into like something to actually watch. So very excited about that. As you guys know, we love football. We love all the other sports too, but our hearts belong to that pigskin. So we got some futures to give out today. Zack is going to be continuing his SEC win total from bottom to the top. I'm excited to hear this one today because we were doing it a little bit before the pod before the pod. Check out the Patreon. We Zach's in a pickle, and I can't wait to hear him try to talk about it because I don't know, the SEC this year is crazy.
Probably.
Mason's got some good stats for some preseason trends. If you're new to the pod and weren't around last preseason, Mason owns the preseason when it comes to
That's right.
gambling. He was like 5-0 at one point. We were trashing all the other gamblers on Twitter because we were way better at preseason gambling than any of them. So if you need some preseason bets, you found the right pod.
So if you don't think that we're going to bet the preseason, think again. Because when football's here, it does not matter. It could be, they brought up week 0, preseason football, week 17, playoffs. It does not matter. We're betting it. We're ready to go. I'm excited about a couple things here. I'm excited about if the next guy up parlay, we talked about bringing it back. But I'm excited about that being a thing. I'm also excited about, Zach was like torn with emotion, just trying to figure out what he was going to do with, he knows what he wants to do. It's just like, he's like, golly, I'm back and forth on some of this. So I just can't wait to see it play out because if you've never been with us for a draft, it's like all of a sudden he's like, oh, it's my pick. And then he tries to kill some time and he's like trying to like go back and forth on what he should do. So I can't wait for this, but I did want to throw out week 0 is going to be August 24th.
Correct.
Dublin, Ireland. Do we remember last year's? It was the, I remember because it was such a bad, Notre Dame. I thought that, was it Air Force that was going to cover? Yeah, that was, but we got Florida State versus Georgia Tech. Maybe more of a game than you think. And then that next Thursday, there's a couple games, North Carolina at Minnesota. We have North Dakota State at Colorado. So some interesting games I'm excited for.
McNeese at Tarleton State.
That's the game I was looking for. Yep.
Big time.
Can't forget that one. Big time. That's right.
Gosh, that is going to be an action-packed weekend for your boy. I'm going to Atlanta on that Friday for the Jaguars preseason game. And then we'll have week 0, and then we have our fantasy draft. So
I will tell you, that's a big week.
That's a big weekend for me.
Speaking of Atlanta, Tens, did you see the picture surfacing of somebody getting a certain amount of food for $20 at the concession stand? Are you going to please tell me you're going to do that? So I'm going to try to pull up the picture if you remember by memory what he ordered.
Yeah, they got the chicken. So the thing about the Falcons Stadium is they're very proud to be the most affordable food in every NFL stadium. So this guy, I'm pretty sure he got like a big slice of pizza, the chicken tenders and fries meal, a soda, pretzel, and I think nachos for $20.
Wow.
They also have a Chick-fil-A. They have an operating. Yep, there it is.
That's like
a
Costco
soda,
prices.
popcorn. Yeah, exactly. It's probably Costco food, but that's fine.
Could be. Costco food's banging.
Yeah. They do have an operational Chick-fil-A at the Falcons Stadium, which is funny because the Falcons play on Sunday and Chick-fil-A is not open, and they don't open it on Sundays. So it's just for whenever they have the big events or concerts, which, I mean, that stadium's used for the SEC championship game and all kinds of other stuff. So I'm sure they're still getting banged for the
Thursday night games, things like that.
So, but yeah, that's the only game that worked out for me to get to go to this year. The Jags away schedule didn't line up, and Tatum is due the same week that the Jags are coming to Nashville. So don't know how he's going to pull that one off.
Priorities. Yeah, that'd have been tough.
Yeah. Or he could have just went. Who knows?
You could have opted for a Nashville berth.
That's
Then
true.
you could just swing over there.
Just swing through. I'm sure Titans fans would be really nice to my 3-day-old Jaguar son. I'm sure they wouldn't pull up any receipts of me saying bad things about him.
Do you think they look at you and be like, "Oh, there's that Tyler Tinsley guy from the Next Guy Up podcast. He said some hurtful things about the Titans."
I have hateful DMs.
We should do a DM read one day, just like on the pod.
We do have that segment. It's called bulletin board material.
Yeah, a lot of words that would get us to the explicit tag if I read my DMs, especially that Texans fan. I know you listen to this, you turd.
We welcome all fans.
Welcome all fans, even though Tinsley insults half of them, we welcome all of them. Tinsley, you're going to be the only one doing a stadium tour unless I pull something.
The Bills fans out there,
all the Bills fans,
fans.
I like the Bills this year. I'll just say it. I don't have anything against them. They've changed their offense. I like what they're going to be doing.
They changed their offense to getting rid of all their wide receivers.
James Cook. It's James Cook season.
Hey, don't be giving out fantasy football. I did want to ask this on the pod. Yeah. We kind of have a game plan, but I'm sure there's things not planned that will pop up in this pod. So what is the perfect weekend to do a fantasy football draft? This is like a legitimate, serious thing because I feel like we've kind of it's almost so we're all in a league together and I feel like everybody almost listens to the pod that's also in the league. So they can give their feedback as well, unless we don't want to hear their feedback. I don't know what everybody wants to listen.
I have a suggestion box. It's right over here. It's my trash can. That's where all their suggestions can go. Just joking. I am the commissioner,
but not really.
No, I take people's suggestions. I rule with an iron fist.
Yeah, Tinsley is the commissioner. I'm kind of like co-commish, which I don't know what my job is. I'm kind of just chilling. Last year, it was the board was like a huge part of.
That was a big deal.
So let's give it. I don't know how much people want to know about this, but anyways, each year, it feels like it's different because we have to get around everybody's schedule. So, but if you had to pick. Because I remember one time, I think we did it before preseason started.
We sure did.
And there was injuries, words with Mason, injuries galore. And I feel like a lot of people
Jordy Nelson.
I
remember that. I remember Matthias drafted Jordy Nelson like in the first or second round.
My brother.
Tore his ACL in practice like 3 days later. So, if I had to pick a perfect weekend, I think we do pretty good doing the third week of preseason because then by then – players aren't playing anymore, and that gives you like a whole week, or like 2 weeks of just sitting on your team.
Is that the week we're doing?
Or if you're like Tins doing about 6 trades before the season starts. I send out about
6. Yeah, I do send out that many. People don't trade with me anymore. Josh will trade with me. Zach won't even like entertain a trade with me. Like Zach will see that I've sent him a trade. He's like, I don't trust it.
Correct.
All because I said if I send you a trade, I'm trying to help myself more than I'm trying to help anyone else. And everyone uses
it's like doing a deal with the devil. It's like you're never going to win that trade.
I've made some bad trades.
I won that one with you though, Tins. What was it? Do you remember that? You got cooked.
It was really bad. I've had some bad trades.
Who was it? I don't remember. It was a tight end. I feel like it was content. I'll think about it.
Something about Sam Laporta, maybe. I dropped Sam Laporta. Right. Travis Kelce, who knows? Not great, Bob. Everyone needs to not be worried about me anymore. I'm a washed up fantasy football player. I haven't won in many years.
This is the time where he's like, woe is me, poor little me.
I was in last place 2 years ago. I was sitting at Waffle House eating waffles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a new segment idea for the season, everybody.
I love when Zack comes up with just podcast ideas on the pod.
It's live.
It makes us honest. It's time to cook. Go ahead, Zack.
Josh Allen of the week. Every week we determine which Josh Allen had the better performance.
There's only one Josh Allen, though, now.
No, there's two. We know there's two.
He changed his name.
He can say whatever he wants. Josh Allen of the week. Every Friday or every Monday pod.
So you're comparing a quarterback to a linebacker?
He's a defensive end.
What? Yeah.
That's why it's fun. It's like how do you compare the two?
Which one had better? Well, this one had a sack and 3 tackles, but this one threw for 240 yards and a touchdown and an interception.
Josh Allen of the week.
That could be our running award.
It could be. We need to do more awards. Yeah, I think we need to do.
Right,
yeah,
I'm down. Josh Allen of the week. I'm sure
Zack
I won't be biased.
Absolutely not.
We got to vote 2 out of 3.
Zack will come up with some like crazy algorithm that will be like, well, if you carry the 1 and divide by 3, this sack equals this many yards for a quarterback. Like he'll do something like that.
There's no math involved. This is just heart. Who had the better performance?
The Jags were 5-0 in all games. Josh Allen had 2 sacks in last year. Just saying.
So he would probably have been Josh Allen of the week in those weeks.
Well, at least those 5.
Like a 4 touchdown week, maybe. I don't know.
I like this idea.
I wonder. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else with same names. None come to mind.
Do some research. We'll get our guy.
Yeah, we'll do some research, especially some offensive linemen. That'd be great.
That would be funny.
We'll get the intern on it.
Performance. Yeah. Run the numbers.
But if you'd like to be an intern, send us an email. It doesn't pay anything, but we'll find you something to do.
It's good on resumes.
Yeah, exactly. We're accredited.
The only one that's popping up is the Josh Allen versus Josh Allen.
Yeah.
There you go.
Somebody's 2-0 and that
Tim is fully invested in both of those Josh Allens. That's kind of why I want to do it.
So. I've taken my I'm trying to hate less on the quarterback Josh Allen.
That's fine. You can award him Josh Allen of the week sometimes. Then it'll help.
And then sometimes he throws 4 consecutive picks in practice, and I'm like, see, you're gonna make me say something.
We'll be back in.
Try to be nice.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
Okay.
I like Josh Allen of the week. I can't wait. Maybe that's what I got to get something behind me other than this electrical panel. So maybe I'll get a big flag that says Josh Allen of the week.
I think that's funny. Okay.
All right.
I'm excited for football, fellas. I'm excited. Every passing day, I hear more coming out of like SEC camps and about college football and who's looking good. I feel like college football is really bad about like everyone's looking good. You know, like no one ever says, this guy's looking bad. They're not looking great. I listen to a lot of like beat reporters from different colleges to do some research for my over-unders in SEC, and every single one of them is like, man, this is looking pretty good this year. I think they all overestimate their everyone is super optimistic going into this time of season. In college especially, I feel like, because you got so many new faces, and it's like a brand new team almost. Yeah. Like anything could happen. We could win 10 games. It's like, no, you're going to win 4 games, maybe. Notre Dame.
Looking at you, Notre Dame. I do feel like that for college. I do see a lot more, like everything's positive. There's not a lot of like, I don't know if this starting position's really got the guy. NFL is more like, hey, this is a glaring weakness, and everyone should be worried about it going into the season.
Everyone knows it, yeah, and every team knows how to exploit it probably already. There's some new. I feel like the NFL excitement is around the new quarterbacks. Yeah, like 4 or 5 new quarterbacks who probably will be in a starting role. It's like, man, who knows what Caleb Williams is going to look like, or that's where the excitement is in the NFL.
Yeah, the rookie quarterbacks, and then especially the last few years of so many free agent quarterbacks. I mean, we never really had it growing up until Peyton went to the Broncos and then Tom Brady went to the Bucs. But other than that, quarterbacks normally stayed on one team, or if they were bad, it was over. Like your career was done after one team. So yeah, it's like seeing all this stuff about Kirk Cousins at Falcons camp, Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. It's been a lot of excitement in the NFL as far as the quarterbacks go. I saw where Jaden Daniels is going to be officially listed as the starter. There were some question marks
Ooh.
about that, whether he was going to start or not. And
Hmm.
I didn't really think Mariota was going to take that job, but you never know. Sometimes teams like to just start the veteran for no good reason. But then, like the exact opposite of like hyping up a quarterback, I was looking at some Raiders stuff because I'm kind of on the fence on the Raiders. Been looking at their over under because it's like 6.5, and I've been debating whether to use them as a future Friday or not. Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew have been absolutely garbage in practice. Apparently, like all the beat reporters are like, "This is not good. This quarterback situation is not good at all."
That could also just mean that the Raiders defense is just really, really great. I'm just kidding. That's probably not the case at all.
No, I just don't know. Yeah.
But listen, can I go ahead and start a little bit of my segment? Did you all have any? Because with Tinsley bringing up Jaden Daniels, it was actually the perfect time for me to take over this segment with him talking about. So Jaden Daniels, like Tinsley said, was announced as a starter. I was not too shocked by this. So I came across a stat here that I thought was pretty interesting. This will be officially on the record. So if you've not listened to any past episodes, or if you've missed some, I have strictly done, and the guys will talk about theirs as well. I've strictly done NFL player props for the whole season. These are called futures for you new bettors out there. And so far, I don't remember the yards on either of them, but I've done the under for Russell Wilson, and I was able to snag it because I hesitated, and I was able to snag it. And it has already been taken off of DraftKings, with Justin Fields actually taking first team reps here recently. I think he did 7 of the last practices. Does that sound right, Tins? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah.
7 of the 9. So I knew this. I should have bought more stock in Justin Fields. You could not find him on any type of sports book unless it was like to win MVP, which I think he'll have a great season. I don't think he'll do something like that. But I took the under on Russell Wilson. Please tell me, reach out if you took this with me. And then I took Zay Flowers over on his yards. It was like 875, something like that. So the next one, Tinsley just talked about Jaden Daniels. His over under, let me find it, just more recent, was set, and it's not on DraftKings. I think I found it cheaper somewhere else. It was on FanDuel for 3,025.5 yards. So what I'm gonna, the stat that I found was, it's actually pretty tough for a rookie quarterback drafted in the first round and that has started at least 14 games. So he's already given the nod to be the starting quarterback. Hopefully there won't be any injuries. To not have more than 1,000 yards, or 3,000 yards. Sorry, not 1,000. 3,000 yards. Over the past decade, just one quarterback has managed to not do that. Do you know who this is, Tinsley or Zack?
I remember we talked about it. Is it Bryce?
Bryce Young. Yep.
Yeah.
Bryce Young played 16 games, 2,877. Before that, CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Carson Wentz, Jameis Winston. And if you're like, oh, you missed a lot of first rounders, they didn't play more than 14 games. So like obviously Richardson was out. Anthony Richardson missed a lot of games, things like that. So he's already given the nod to start. As long as there's no injuries and he plays more than 14 games, it's almost a lock. It's 9 out of like the 10 past quarterbacks have been able to do it in the past decade. So how many did I list off? 2, 4, 6, 8. So 7 out of the last 8 have been able to do that. I've also liked him as a core. I like what I saw. I think there will be some development things, obviously, but I like what he did at LSU. I like the weapons around them at Washington. So that is a official play. I have 3 on the books so far. You can find them on social media, the exact book. Like I said, DraftKings already took off the Russell Wilson, so I hope he took it. But Zay Flowers is still out there. And then this is my official over 3,025.5 yards on FanDuel.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this pick as well. I think Cliff Kingsbury is an offensive coordinator who loves a mobile quarterback who can run and throw. That's Jane Daniels. I love the receivers Washington has as far as Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson on the outside, and then they drafted McCaffrey in the third round as like a slot guy. I'm not sure who they're working with tight end. I know they've got a rookie from Kansas State who's probably going to take the majority of snaps. Tight end for or your starter being a rookie at tight end is always a little tough, but they'll work around that. Austin Eckler is a guy who's still got some receiving ability out of the backfield, so I definitely see where 3,000 yards.
Dink and dunk.
Yeah, dink and dunk. Terry McLaurin's a guy who got Sam Howell and what's his name, Taylor Heineke, like multiple 1,000-yard seasons. Like, I mean, he's a great receiver. So I'm definitely going to be on this pick with Mason for sure. So yeah, I love it.
And so you're wondering why not Caleb Williams? His total is higher. And I think we saw it. He plays tougher defenses and a little bit of a tougher schedule. I think we've talked about the Bears in the past. So I feel more confident about this. It's the same thing, though. Caleb Williams, I don't think anybody disagrees with the weapons around him. If you feel confident, I was not the most pleased with his last season at USC. I thought it was kind of disappointing. I thought Jaden Daniels had more of a better last season, in my opinion. But it's apples and oranges because I think Caleb Williams came on the scene more with the 2 years ago. He had a better, maybe it was just an overall team thing. I don't know if Zack has anything. He's giving me the side eye look, talking some college football here. He's more the expert, but he's laying down. Okay, thank you.
I don't know. I'm not big on Caleb Williams either. I think he does too much of the running around in the pocket, which is, you think you're Patrick Mahomes, and you're just not. No one is Patrick Mahomes except for Patrick Mahomes. I don't think that stuff will work in the NFL. I'm a little bit. Oh, and we lost Mason. I think that's what you were giving. Nope, he's back. There he is. Your internet is wanting to die on you, just so you're aware.
I hope it didn't lose me. Okay, go ahead.
You're good. You're back. So yeah, I'm not like the biggest, like, I like Jane Daniels. I don't think he's going to be like a top 5 quarterback or anything. I worry about his play style because he is he seems like a run first kind of quarterback, and he's not got the frame to be able to take NFL hits. So he'll have to be smart about that. So like long term, I'm not super in on Jane Daniels, but I do think he can come in and make a big splash as a rookie. And if we're talking about a season long prop of just throwing for essentially 3,000 yards, if he plays 14 games, your trend shows that that's more than likely he's going to hit, because he's not in a situation like Bryce Young was with the Panthers, where who was Bryce Young throwing to last year? His starting receivers were Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, or not DJ Chark, that was the year before, like LaVista Chenault and Terrence Marshall. Like, those were his 3 starting receivers. Other than Adam Thielen, you don't even know who those other 2 guys are.
Yeah, I don't know how you know this. I will say, from a college perspective, those are 2 interesting guys, Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams, because they're both on. They've kind of both absolutely carried their team like on their back, like fully.
Yeah, no defense.
Which is in opposition to what Bryce Young did at Alabama the year before, where he was kind of he was very, very good, but his team was also very good. Compared to last year, whenever LSU defense, and I mean, Jaden Daniels was the entire offense. Same with USC. I mean, Caleb Williams was the offensive production. So it will be really interesting to see how those guys go from having to do it all in the pocket and run around and do like superhero stuff to win games to the NFL now, where they're not going to be able to do that. I think it would be an interesting transition.
Yeah, for sure.
Caleb Williams had 500 more yards that he has to get for his total, his over-under.
He's at 35.
Yeah.
Which would be a
technically
Bears
it's
record.
475. Huh?
You know, no, or wait.
I think it's 4,000 yards.
You said just it's 4,000 yards. Never mind. Yeah, you're right. The Bears have never had a 4,000-yard quarterback. That's what I was trying to get at. But it's 4,000. I was for some reason thought 3, but then Justin Fields broke that. All right, yeah, no, I like it.
Okay, so last little NFL nugget, and then you guys can take over the next segments here. The total since 2010. I love my stats, guys. I know you guys do too. Hopefully,
love it.
Since 2010 in the NFL preseason, the number 37. Keep this number in mind. This is gonna be fun to figure this out during the pod. I'm gonna figure this out right now. The number 37 has proved to be quite the benchmark in terms of totals. For example, totals less than 37 have gone over at a rate of 58.9%, including 10 and 3 last preseason. Okay, did everybody get that? So if it was the total is less than 37, so if it's set at 37, you want to take the under. Or I'm sorry, if it's set at 37, you want to take the over. And that was 10 and 3 last season. The closing totals of 37 or higher have gone under. So if it's a high number, you want to bet under. Does this make sense? If it's a low number, lower than 37, you want to take the over. If it's a high number, you want to take the under. Everybody got it?
Carry the one.
Carry the one. So I wanted to look at the totals real quick for the preseason. And yes, I'm looking at NFL preseason totals. List me off a better podcast that looks at things like this. I'm waiting. I wanted to look at the lowest totals, and I apologize because this is dropping on Friday, but this game is on Thursday. The lowest total that I found was shockingly the Panthers and the Patriots. And you already know the total of this, but with this, I'm taking the over on this. Lowest number, you want to take the over. A high number, you want to take the under. Does everybody understand? I feel like Zach's super confused.
I immediately understand.
Okay. So the highest number, so that's all I'm doing. I'm taking the lowest number and I'm going to take the over, and I'm going to take the highest number and I'm going to take the under.
Okay, I got you.
So 39.5 was the total. The highest total I could find was Packers and Browns. We're going to have backup quarterbacks. It's going to be an ugly game. I'm going to take the under.
Okay, smart.
Packers and Browns on Saturday. It's an afternoon game. So just keep this in mind for if you're wanting to bet. Huh?
It's a great play.
Thank you.
What was the lowest one? What was the lowest total?
33.5.
You're taking the over on that.
Taking the over.
Okay.
Because
so all
that
are estimated between 33.5 and 39.
So because if you take the over, you have a 58.9% chance, and I'm taking the lowest one. Okay. If I pick the highest one and I take the under, I have a 56.4%. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. I'm with you.
So I'm not. It's not a 50-50. I have an 8% on one side and 6 on the other. If we're talking about history standpoint. So there's my little numbers, my math. I hope I explained it well. And if I didn't, just reach out and call me an idiot. That's fine. But there's my stat of the day. I hope so. I have 2 bets for the preseason. Let's keep up with it for the record. Let's see how it goes. So this is official.
Let's get it.
2-0. Okay. So that concludes my NFL.
Yeah.
Text
them to me. That way I make sure I get them right. I'll punch them in over at Beat the Book. We talked about this a little bit during the end of college basketball season, but we are over there. They've been wondering where we've been. I had the guy DM me the other day. I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm not giving out baseball picks. I'm sorry.
We do not know what we are doing."
Yeah, I'm in a Discord. I take baseball picks. I'm not going to give out their baseball picks as my own.
That's called integrity, everybody.
That's right. I said we'll be back for football. I'll give out plenty of my own bad picks then. Don't need to add baseball to it. So yeah, you can follow. We'll do that. We'll do a little bit better promo and shout it out and tweet it out and all that good stuff once football is started up. But that is where you can follow all of our picks. We'll get some stuff in there early. That's where you're going to find the next guy up parlay outside of the podcast because that's where we'll be cooking that up as well. But all right, so I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna give mine real quick, and then we're gonna dive into Zach's win totals. Mine's pretty short and sweet. I've got one official pick, and then something I'm sprinkling. It's not an official pick, but I think it's something that's worth looking at. We'll do the sprinkle first.
Okay.
I think it's the worst kept secret that Brandon Ayuk is getting traded. It's been happening all summer. I think at this point it's pretty dumb to trade him because now he's going to have to. It's the middle of training camp. We're talking about preseason games being played. Is he gonna pick up a brand new playbook and learn it and fit into an offense instantly? Like that never works. Like it does take timing. Quarterback and receivers need timing, playing together, learning how each other, like how he runs routes and how he wants balls thrown to him. Like that's all really important stuff.
It worked for Josh Dobbs that one game. Remember that?
Yeah, you know what? You can catch Josh lightning in a bottle. Remember when Josh Dobbs got the start for the Titans in Week 17, 2022? Nope.
I remember that. No,
I remember that one. I was there. Anyway, if you thought you were getting an episode without Josh Dobbs, you were wrong. Mark it on your bingo cards. So anyway, I think it's a bad idea, but to each their own. Whatever team is willing to trade him this big package of a first-round pick and all this money, more power to you. I do think the 49ers, I don't know, I think they might have missed their window. This was a team that went to overtime last year in the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, but lost in a big part because Deebo Samuel pulled his hamstring and George Kittle got hurt so bad he couldn't lift his arm over his shoulder. Like he couldn't lift his arm up because he hurt his shoulder so bad. It's a team that's injury history all up and down. Now Christian McCaffrey's gotten hurt in training camp. You're talking about trading one of your best players. Like, why are we not managing our star players, keeping them healthy going into the season? Now we're trading away a guy who can be a top-tier receiver to take the pressure off of Kittle and Deebo and let them kind of coast throughout the season instead of having to play high snaps and make them more vulnerable to injuries. I think the door is a little bit more open. Everybody just wants to say, oh, the Super Bowl is going to be 49ers Chiefs again because they're the best two teams. And yes, the 49ers are still good, even if they were to trade Brandon Ayuk, which they don't have to, but it just seems like they're going to at this point. You're talking about they've lost linebacker Greenlaw. He tore his Achilles running out on the field, which is very, just tragic way to get hurt in the Super Bowl, just running out to get on the field to play defense. He's a star linebacker. They lost a couple guys on their defensive line. They lost a starting corner who's going to be out this year because he tore his ACL in the playoffs. So you just a lot of stuff's building up, and I think there's a lot more holes to this 49ers team than people want to realize just because they have Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. That covers up a lot, but I don't think it's enough. Especially in this division that I think is a lot better than people want to give credit for. I think the Seahawks are a better team than even I want to say they are. I'm not big on them, but I think they're a better team than they probably are on paper, especially with their new head coach. I think the Cardinals are due for a bounce back. I'm pretty high on the Cardinals, and I think the Rams are going to be very good. So my sprinkle is I'm putting a full unit on the Rams to win the division at plus 330 on DraftKings. And I put a half a unit on the Cardinals at plus 1,300. I didn't take the Seahawks because I'm just not big on the Seahawks unless Geno Smith's not their starting quarterback. Wasn't worth it to me. Plus, I think they're like plus 500. If you're a Geno Smith believer, then go for it, I guess. But so those are two sprinkles. I think both those teams have every ability to win the division, especially because I think the 49ers are like one injury away during the season from the whole thing kind of just collapsing in on itself. Like Christian McCaffrey has a calf strain; those don't go away. Like those are nagging long injuries. Like those are the things he dealt with the Panthers with the hamstrings and the calf injuries that made him miss multiple games a year. he touched the ball 430 plus times last year. Like, that's a lot of wear and tear. To expect him to be able to carry that load again this year is asking a lot.
I was trying to find how many division wins in a row the 49ers have had, and I wasn't able
Yeah.
to. I was kind of curious about that.
Because I
Just
think
because
even the year the Rams won the Super Bowl, weren't they a wild card team? Maybe.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like this might be the lowest I've been on them in the past like 3 seasons. I feel like,
Yeah.
and the Brandon Ayuk thing is already.
It's just distractions. It's just distractions on top of guys getting older that are already shown to be injury prone. So
honestly, who's going to take his place? Would it be Juwan Jennings or
yeah.
Pearsall?
Well,
But he's a rookie.
Ricky Pearsall pulled his hamstring, and he's on the PUP list, so he hasn't practiced yet.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's just constant injury bug.
And the most I'm worried about is like Brock Purdy's going to get paid. And so then they'll take up cap room. I think that this was literally like last
This
season
is
was
the last year.
last season and this year were probably like the time that they were going to have the biggest advantage because you want those rookie contract for quarterbacks. So no,
Yeah.
I like that a little sprinkle. What are we doing? Half units?
I did a full unit on the Rams because they're plus 330, and then I did a half on the Cardinals. But those are not official Future Fridays, unless maybe they are. I don't know. I might just throw them on there. Who knows? I'm a wild boy.
Hit.
And
they're official.
So
look good at the end of the year on the graphic. So
if Sam Howell takes the starting quarterback position, then
I'm smashing the Seahawks.
A big Sam Howell fan. What about
Sam
that?
Howell guy. And then my other pick, this is the pick I told the boys about. This is a for sure official pick, is I'm taking Joe Burrow to win MVP at plus 900. I think MVP is a race of who has the best record, who's going to have the 1 seed, and on top of having really good stats. I think that's the reason why we always see Lamar. We saw Jalen Hurts win it a couple years ago. Patrick Mahomes, for some reason, is getting the LeBron treatment where they're like, we're tired of giving it to Patrick Mahomes, even though I think he's only won it once, maybe twice. They won't give it to him anymore. But I'm going with Joe Burrow because I think they have done so much to improve this offensive line. That's the one thing about Joe is he's had season-ending injuries. I think they have, in their mind, fixed that problem. I hope so as well. But they have invested a lot in their offensive line, bringing in Orlando Brown, Trent Brown, Mims, not Mims, maybe Mims, the Georgia offensive tackle, and then a couple guards and centers. So they've revamped the offensive line. You still have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Mike Gesicki is a sleeper in fantasy. I'm just going to tell you at the tight end position, he's probably the best tight end Joe Burrow's ever had, which that's saying a lot because Mike Gesicki's mid.
Amarius Mims.
Yeah, that's right. So at plus 900 with Joe Burrow having a very good offensive line in front of him, his weapons still there, with a 4th place schedule, which I know I talk about that a lot. I talk a lot about the cross section of schedules, but I do think it plays a big factor into like you think about Joe Burrow team, like it'd be like Patrick Mahomes, say he got hurt this year, and then next year they get to play all the 4th place teams in other divisions. Like, you'd be licking your chops to bet on Patrick Mahomes everything because he's playing lesser opponents. Well, that's what the Bengals get to do this year. They get to play the Commanders at home. They get to play the Patriots at home, the Panthers, Giants, Raiders, Chargers, Titans, Broncos, and then their division, which he plays very well in the division. So at plus 900 for a guy who I think is going to be competing neck and neck for that 1 seed with the Chiefs, and they do get a chance to play them at home. I will take plus 900 for a guy that I think has every chance to win MVP, because that's probably the shortest odds you're going to get him, because he does start out with the Patriots and then the Chiefs. If they beat the Chiefs earlier in the year, you're going to see that number get dropped to like the 300 range.
So are you confident enough for them to win the division as well? Because on DraftKings it's plus 140, Ravens plus 145, Browns plus 600, and then my Steelers at plus 800. Justin Fields, baby.
I have taken multiple division winner parlays, and the Bengals and Chiefs are the two that are in every one of them. So
Bengals, Chiefs, and Jaguars.
What? This is not a Jaguars podcast.
They're plus 275. You can't beat that deal with a stick.
From your mouth to my ears, brother. The Titans fans said it, not me.
Tim's turning over a new leaf. He's just right in the middle now.
Give it 2 more episodes and he'll be
really
back
even
on.
likes the Jags anymore.
Probably the end of this episode.
That. I just am being a journalist, content creator, and the Jaguars have nothing to do with the Bengals right now. They don't play each other until the AFC Championship game.
Ooh.
Real quick, I hate to just be super random, but has anybody else done this yet where you Google a player or somebody? Marius Mims was the player I was trying to look for. Born 2002. I was in 2nd grade.
Yeah,
he's an NFL player.
Don't need to do that to yourself.
That happens quite a bit where I'm just like, oh my gosh. Okay, anyways, that was a random thing. No, those are good.
Sorry, this is another random one, but I was at work.
I love it.
We were talking about Shrek 5 coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And we have an intern at work. He's like 21. And we were talking about Shrek, and I was like, "We're even alive when the first Shrek came out?" And he was not. He is in college, and he was not born when Shrek 1 came out in 2001.
That's tough. That's tough for me to hear.
Yep. So apparently Marius Mims wasn't either because 2002. So let's get him on the pod and ask him about that.
All right, I'll DM him.
Have you seen Shrek?
We'll talk about how you're young.
He's a Georgia player, so I'm sure he's got lots to talk about.
Speeding tickets.
Arrest.
All right, perfect. All right, is this time while Tinsley's DMing Marius Mims? Zach, you want to go ahead and start off your? I'm so excited for this. He's gonna be. I feel like he's gonna be stressed. Zach, he's stretching. Everybody that can't see because this is a podcast. He's stretching, get some reps in. Okay, let's kick it off.
Here's where we're at
closed.
At least you tried.
Georgia closed all the DMs at one point. They're like, "Yeah, cut them off." So we are talking SEC football today. We are in part 3, and we are covering teams finishing 5 through 8. So there are a lot of storylines running around in today's top 4, or in numbers 5 through 8. There are a couple of new coaches. 2 of them, in fact, to the SEC. There's a couple of new, fresh quarterbacks. And here's where I'm at in the SEC playoff picture, because this is gonna help us paint the picture today. I think there are going to be 5 SEC teams go to the playoffs. Here's how I do the math. I think 5 will go from the SEC. I think if you hit 10 wins, it's an automatic. In the SEC schedule, 10 wins will send you automatically. I think there will be 1 from the ACC, 1 from the Big 12. I could see 4 from the Big 10. If you're looking at Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, maybe Penn State, maybe I could see 4 going though.
Not Michigan. They're gonna be bad.
Could be. They could be bad, but they're at like plus 130, I think, to go to the playoff. And then that leaves room for someone else. It leaves room for a Notre Dame to sneak in, maybe.
No, we bet them not to get in the playoffs.
They're not going to do it, but potentially at least 1 extra slot. And so today we're going to talk about that. So today, one of the teams. Well, there's a lot of storylines going on. It's kind of what I'm saying. There's a lot of things to look at. When you get up to the top 8, we talked about last week how close these are going to be. All of these team win totals are 8.5 or higher. And so these are teams that are going to be competing for those 10 wins playoff spots. All of them could make it. And so, but because they're numbers 5 through not 8, obviously not all 4 can make it. So that's where we're looking at today. I think we have some really interesting teams to talk about. I will say that as I was researching these 4 teams, I think these are 4 of the more favorable schedules in the SEC. The bottom 8 we talked about, a lot of them were very tough schedules. We saw some of the toughest schedules that in the country. We saw Oklahoma. We saw Florida. These schedules are just horrible. Today, we're going to see 4 pretty reasonable schedules that we could see a couple of big losses, but then coming out with 8, 9, 10 wins. So today we are starting with Texas A&M. Texas A&M has a new coach this year. Obviously, we thought it might be Stoops coming from Kentucky. That did not happen. And we ended up with Mike Elko from Duke. I think one thing I'm going to follow along today is that new head coaches just do not tend to have great first seasons in the SEC. These are for a lot of reasons, but the SEC is just a different ballgame than the ACC in football. I think I'm going to talk about the same thing with Kalen DeBoer. I just think it's a whole different world, and I think that some coaches like this are going to struggle. But Michael Cook is coming in. We have Connor Wegman. Obviously, there was a lot of issues in A&M's team last year, including a couple of bad injuries to quarterbacks. So Connor Wegman maybe is back from what I've heard. I think his status is definitely going to be up in the air some. I have a fun fact for you all.
Fun fact.
You guys have any idea of how many players entered the transfer portal from Texas A&M last year?
54.
No, not that high. That's too high.
37.
It was 31. 31 players into the transfer portal. That's a lot of players for a college football team. So they did a lot of rebuilding. They pulled in 28 new players from the portal, but overall, there's a lot of unknowns on this team. I think the pieces are there potentially. Mike Elko, I don't know what he's going to do with the SEC schedule. We're going to look at their schedule in a second, though. It's honestly not as bad as some other teams. But there's some question marks. So let's go ahead and look at Texas A&M's schedule. Their over-under, by the way, is 8.5. 8.5. One of the more interesting Week 1 games, probably actually the premier Week 1 game, is happening. Notre Dame, Texas A&M. That's happening on August 31st. Very, very interesting. A&M is playing that at home, so they're going to be slight favorites. I think they're 2-point favorites to open up. But boy, that is going to be a huge game for both of those teams, Notre Dame and Texas A&M. Whoever wins that is going to have a really, really good start to their season. Whoever loses it is going to struggle. After that, A&M has a couple of cupcakes. They end up playing, just to highlight, they play Missouri at home. They play LSU at home, at South Carolina. They play at Auburn, and they bring Texas in at home. That Texas game, we're calling that a loss. We're going to call I think that they're going to struggle at Auburn, to be honest with you. But we're going to call LSU a loss. We're going to call Missouri a loss. And I think we're going to call Notre Dame a loss. I am taking the under A&M total wins at 8. I think they get 8 wins. I think they're a team with a first-year head coach. Well, not a first-year coach to the program. I think they're going to have really, really high expectations. I think, honestly, the whole season they're going to be looking ahead to that Texas game. I think they're going to get caught a couple times. I think they're going to lose a couple they maybe aren't expected to lose. They do have 2 or 3 games that are really, really tough on their schedule. I think they're going to drop 4 and go 8 wins. And I think that's not a bad start for Elko, honestly. I think 8 would not be bad. I think 9 is the most they could possibly win in the schedule, but I see them losing 1, getting 8 wins. Okay, next up, we have LSU. LSU is this is the one I was going back and forth the most with mentally because they are so tricky for me. So let's talk about LSU a little bit. They have a complete overhaul on defense. They have a new defensive coordinator. His name is Blake Baker, coming from Oklahoma. He is now the highest paid coordinator, offensive or defensive, in the entire nation. Obviously, they just lost the Heisman Trophy winner in Jayden Daniels. They're gonna have a good offensive line, but I think their defense is still the biggest question. It's gonna look brand new. I think it's going to have. I don't know what it's going to look like. I think that's going to be their weakness there. Caleb Jackson at running back is going to have a good season. Garrett Nussmeier, he has been talked about a lot. I think he's going to look good at quarterback. So I think their offense still is in good shape, but I think their defense is still a question. So let's talk about their schedule now. They have the other premier week 1 matchup in the nation, and that would be USC LSU playing in Las Vegas. I think this is a really interesting game because last year these were some of the 2 best offenses, 2 of the worst defenses. We're going to see if either one of them stepped up on defense. I don't know that they did. This game is kind of a question mark to me. I don't know. I think LSU is probably the better team, but I think USC will have more fans probably, and I think they could pull that one out. So beyond that, though, their schedule is actually really soft. They play at South Carolina, who I don't think is very good. They host Ole Miss. They're playing at Arkansas. They're playing at Texas A&M. They host Alabama. They're at Florida, and then at the end of the season, they host Oklahoma. This one's tricky.
So the only hard road game is Florida?
At Florida. You would be correct. At South Carolina. At that one. They're at A&M at Florida. Yeah.
Okay, so there's their two.
Their road schedule is not tough. I mean, I think they here's my take on both LSU and A&M. I think they're mediocre teams that pulled very soft schedules that are going to end up getting a decent bit of wins. So here, LSU's line is set right at 9 right now on DraftKings. The problem is I think they're going to win exactly 9 games. I think that's where they're at with a pretty soft schedule. I think they could lose at A&M potentially. They're probably gonna lose the Ole Miss game, even though it's at LSU, and that'll probably be a night game. So that they could upset Ole Miss there. Honestly, I don't know. They also are hosting Alabama, so a couple of those losses are all home games. So who knows? They could win 10 games.
True.
Yeah. That's why a lot of people are. I think they're actually like plus 120 or something to make the playoffs because their schedule is it's pretty favorable, and they have a lot of home games against their toughest opponents. So I'm going to, if it's exactly at 9, can I say they're going to win 9, or do you have to go over under still?
No, you can say 9 because that's a push.
I'm saying a push. I
don't
like that. I do not bet on LSU. That's what I'm telling you. Sorry. I think it's going to be 9 games.
Yeah, there's no value in taking their under because their schedule is set up for them to win 9 games. But there's for sure no value taking their over because I think they're just not a good enough team.
I don't think they win
over 9, right? To 10 games.
They're going to drop a couple bad games. I agree
with that. Yeah.
So it's a void bet.
Yeah, this is a don't bet situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you want to like shop around and find a 9.5 on another book, which I don't think you can. I've looked. It's not anywhere.
Tins, do you have any opinions on LSU there?
No, they're just a weird school to me. Kelly is a good coach, a good recruiter, and all that stuff. I don't know anything about the quarterback, so it just makes it to where I don't know how to lean. They lost so much. They lost 2 first-round draft picks at receiver, 2 second-round draft picks at defensive line, like it seems like, and then Jay Daniels. So I just don't know what's left. I know LSU is one of those schools that's just got 5 stars falling out of every which way, but I don't know. It's a lot to replace, and they were just okay last year. Like they weren't even a great team last year with a Heisman winning quarterback. So
they weren't. Their defense was just not good. I mean, it was pretty consistently just terrible. So I don't know. I don't believe in them. I think they're just a medium team. I think they're a decent. I think if they were playing Oklahoma's schedule, they would get 7 wins maybe.
Yeah, I agree. The schedule makers did them a huge favor.
So moving on to the next team I've got on my list, I've got Alabama. They are at 9.5, and this is maybe the biggest question mark in the entire SEC this year. Alabama. So let's talk about their upsides. Jalen Milroe is coming back. who is going to be a great quarterback. He was last year. He's going to be good. He is not a secret. They returned a lot of players, actually. They were on offense and defense. I think their roster is deep. I think they have a good team. I think they've got a good enough team to win 10 games. I'm going back to my storyline here that first-year head coaches, especially coming from somewhere like the Pac-12 where competition was just different, football is different over there, I think he's going to struggle. I think it's just really, really tough to put a totally new system in offensively, to plug in a new players, to plug in a new coach into a program like Alabama. And I see them having a lot of growing pains this year. I don't think it'll be forever, but I do think it's going to struggle. So Kalen DeBoer also lost his longtime offensive coordinator to the NFL. Ryan Grubb went to the Seattle Seahawks. And so his kind of right-hand man offensively is gone. From what I hear, they're going to be establishing like a more air raid type offense, which is very foreign to Alabama. Obviously, that is not what they kind of live and die by. And they're only returning one wide receiver from last year. So they have a ton of passes that are gone. Obviously, they replaced with talent. It's not like they don't have guys who can fill in. I am betting the under at 9 wins based on new head coach in a very, very tough SEC. I think they have a very tricky game. The third game of the season, they're playing at Wisconsin, which is, that's a Big Ten game, but they're going to be going into a very hostile environment. They could wipe the floor with Wisconsin, but they also could be challenged. I don't know. I do not know very much about Wisconsin, to be fair.
Second year with their head coach. He's a good program builder from Cincinnati. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he took Cincinnati to the college playoffs.
There you go.
He's got some talent there. So Wisconsin's not like a pushover game for Alabama.
Yeah.
Maybe when they scheduled it, they thought so because Nick Saban was never going to leave and they were never going to be bad. But
well, they've made a habit of scheduling some tougher non-conference games. They start off with Western Kentucky and South Florida, though, and so this is kind of that one. Obviously, it bit them when they played Texas a couple years ago. So very, very – or was that last year? Ooh.
Last year.
Was that last year? Holy cow. Yeah. So they're playing at Wisconsin. I think that's going to tell us a better picture. And then we're going to see the real picture because the next week is Georgia at Alabama. And they are thrown into the fire of the SEC schedule. After that, they've got a couple weeks off. They've got Vandy and South Carolina. But then we're back. They're playing with a really, really tough 3-game schedule. They're playing at Tennessee. They have Missouri at home. And then they have a bye week. And then they host LSU. Nope, they're at LSU. Sorry. That's a tough 3-game schedule for them. 3-game stretch. Then they end the season with at Oklahoma, which if Oklahoma's got a decent season going, that could be a very tough environment. And then they're playing the Iron Bowl against Auburn, which we know can go crazy sometimes. So I look at that schedule, and I will be 100% honest. I don't see 10 wins there. I think they drop 2 of the 3 against Tennessee, Missouri, LSU, at LSU, potentially. I think they at least drop one of those. And then I think they drop Georgia. And then there's too many games in here that they could lose. I think there's like 5 games that are losable on their schedule, which is scary. Again, with a new head coach, a new team. And so I don't think they're going to hit 10 wins. I think they're going under at 9. Under 9.
Real quick, Zach, did you look at the season spreads for these games at all? Can I throw them out real quick? You were wondering, so yeah, go ahead.
What do you got?
Wisconsin was 9. Obviously -9 for Alabama. Georgia was -4.5. So I'm saying the winner. Alabama -2.5 against Tennessee. I'm going to skip over some. LSU is -1.
What about Missouri? Can you go back to Missouri?
Oh, Missouri was -8.5 for Alabama.
That's wild.
For Alabama?
Yeah, Alabama -8.5.
That's crazy, though.
And then the Auburn-Alabama game is -14, so 2 touchdowns. Alabama, Oklahoma's +2 or -2, so Alabama's -2.
I mean, Oklahoma. Yeah, I think
did
Tennessee
they see the same Alabama team as we did last year? Like this was not.
No one knows what Alabama's going to look like. This is the question. This is the problem, and I think people are just giving name recognition to Alabama.
Yeah,
and they see Alabama and they're like, oh yeah, but this is a brand new team. I mean, totally new culture. People are giving Kalen DeBoer a lot of respect that I'm not sure he's actually earned. To be 100%,
I'm sorry, but he's a whatever head coach. He had one of the best offensive coordinators in college football, and he was like Grubb was like a known.
Yeah,
like NFL teams have been calling him for years, saying, "Come coach in the NFL, please. Like we need you." And he turned them all down because he loved Washington. Like he went to college there, all this, that, and the other. That's why it was so surprising he didn't just take their head coaching job when DeBoer left. I'm like DeBoer might be a good coach, sure, but like Grubb was to me the reason that Washington team was so good,
and also Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, and you had Heisman, and you had 3 dudes that are all going to be playing NFL like wide receiver. Like they have 3: Polk, Odunze, and the dude down in McHenry or whatever his name is down in Tampa. So that's wild for them to be like. Because I'm sorry, Jordan Milroe is not 14 points better than other SEC quarterbacks and teams. He's just not.
I think he's going to be good, and I think DeBoer could help with that. I mean, I just don't know. Yeah, there's really two LSU and A&M. I was very sketchy on Bama, and the next team I'm going to talk about, I feel much better about their lines. I think under 9.5 is pretty safe.
Yeah, I love that.
I think they could be an 8-win team potentially.
I'm definitely taking that.
Okay, and coming down to our number 5 spot. If you're keeping some track out there, you may know who we're talking about here. This is Tennessee, number 5. I said earlier that I think there are 5 teams in SEC that will make a bowl game, and will make the playoffs. I think if you've got 10 wins, it's an automatic qualification just about in the SEC schedule. And I think under 9.5 was a little bit criminal for Bama to get that. And I'm going to say the same thing with Tennessee's line, which is actually 8.5. I think 8.5 is very low. I think if you talk to anyone that covers SEC, they think Tennessee is a good bit better than that. We're going to look at Tennessee's schedule in a second, and we're going to talk about why I think that over 8.5 is going to be a pretty easy bet to hit. I think the big headline coming out of Tennessee this year, obviously, is Nico Iamaleava. He is a 5-star who kind of has been in waiting for a year, sitting behind Joe Milton. People are very, very excited. All the talk out of Tennessee is that he is going to be very, very good this year. We have a lot of other exciting pieces, though, there. Dylan Sampson at running back he's got a couple years under his belt, and also Cam Seldon, if he's back from injury. They're both going to be very good running backs. The wide receiver room was much improved over the offseason in the portal, picking up Mike Matthews, and then also Brew McCoy is back from injury, and so I think he's going to be a huge piece to this team. And then Squirrel White, obviously a wide receiver as well. I think he's poised to have a very, very good season. I don't know that it'll be Jalen Hyatt type season, but I think he's going to be the star of that wide receiver room, and he's going to have a big season. With all that being said, I think those are the flashy pieces of the Heupel offense, which I think will be much better this year than last year. I think that the real stars of the team are going to be the offensive and defensive lines. The defensive line, I think, is poised to be maybe the best in SEC. James Pierce Jr. is likely going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. Could be a 1 or 2 if everything goes well this season. But then the offensive line as well struggled last season. Cooper Mays got injured pretty early in the season, and it really hurt with the offense. But Cooper Mays is back. He's a huge piece of the offense, and I think it's going to be big. So if Tennessee can put together offensively and defensively in the line of scrimmage, I think it's going to make a big difference. Now, I will say from the other piece, I think the question mark of this team is the secondary. The secondary, quite literally, as every single starting spot is going to be different this year, like from top to bottom. Every single starter is gone. And there are new people coming in. So if you're a Tennessee fan and to follow the team, you're probably pretty excited about that because you spent the last 3 seasons yelling at your secondary for being trash and just letting up. I mean, that's been a piece of the puzzle they've been missing. But I think the secondary is going to be better. I'm pretty excited about it. Tennessee, the over-under is 8.5. Let's just look at the schedule really fast. And then we can wrap this up. But we have, in my mind, so there's really 3 big games on the schedule. First one comes week 2 against NC State. NC State their over under is 8.5 as well. I think they're not a bad team at all. I don't think that Tennessee is underestimating this NC State team. But Tennessee is gonna, I think if they take care of business there, then they've really got 2 big games on their schedule. It is at Oklahoma, and they're hosting Alabama. And those 2 games are going to determine the season for them, which is very scary. It's scary. At Oklahoma, I think that Tennessee is 2-point underdogs, and then I think they're hosting Alabama to a similar. I think they're also 2-point underdogs there. Maybe those 2 games I think are toss-ups. Are those lines right? Did anybody fact check me on those?
When Mason was looking at Alabama's, I think when he said UT, it was Bama -2, right? Yeah.
In Neyland, it's going to be wild. Yeah, I mean I think the Neyland effect is enough to get those points through. So you've got a really interesting situation, and they also play Georgia. Obviously, they're at Georgia. Closer to the end of the season, I'm going to chalk that up as a loss. I think Georgia is still Georgia this season. We'll get there next week, so if you're looking for 10 wins, you're really hinging on Oklahoma and Bama. So whenever I say I think Tennessee's going to get 10 wins, I think you're beating either Oklahoma or Alabama. I mean, I think winning both will be tough, but I think the way the lines work, both are pretty much almost toss-up games. And so I'm going to say they're winning one of the 2. If they win one of the 2, I think they get 10 wins. And I think this is a good team. I'm obviously biased here. Everyone knows it's not like a secret that I'm a Tennessee fan. The more I hear about the team, though, coming out, we said everyone's positive, and that's true. But I think this team is becoming more and more of an SEC type team with really good line and line of scrimmage play. I'm excited to watch this team this year. I'm going to say that they are the 5th team to make the playoff from the SEC. So let's just do a little bit of storylining here. I'm going to call my shot, and if it's right, it's going to be wild. I think Tennessee gets the last playoff spot from the SEC with 10 wins, and then I think there's a Bama team right under them with 9 wins who is going to petition for that 6th playoff spot for the SEC.
Ooh.
It's Bama always does this mess, and they always kind of get the benefit of that where they can be like, oh yeah, we deserve it. We played a tough schedule or whatever. And I don't know if they'll get it or not, but that in my reality, it's a easy 5 going for the SEC. And the question mark is, do they deserve a 6th, or do we want to give it to an 11-win team with a much worse schedule? I think that's going to be the question. Does a 11-win team coming out of the, I don't know, ACC or Big 12 with a much softer schedule deserve a playoff spot over Bama with 9 wins? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to think about. So I think the 12-team playoff is going to be fun to watch this year for that reason. That's where I'm at. That's great.
All right. Love it. Well, that's Zack will have a fun TikTok. He's been doing quick hitters of that each week, breaking down his SEC win totals from bottom to top. You can find all of our win total stuff. I've been giving mine. Mason's going to be giving his as well. But make sure you're listening to the episodes for our deep dives on all these picks. Like I said, we're as we get closer, we'll have some more info on more weekly stuff. But for the next couple of weeks, at least until football is really in the swing of things, we'll be giving some more features on these Fridays, future Fridays, if you will. But until that's what they call it on the streets. I hear. But that is going to be an episode for today. Make sure you are liking and subscribing us over on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get podcasts. Check us out on YouTube if you want to see all the dumb faces we make while we're talking. We are on YouTube, on our own YouTube platform, and that's where you can also catch us streaming NCAA football. Anyway, so that is, some plugs. We're plugging out here. But we'll have an awesome episode planned for you guys this Monday, and we will catch you then.